Welcome back, everybody. All you glorious, glorious people out there to yet another episode, another installment of your favorite podcast, Wide Right. You're here with Silas Jackson and...
Ethan Hutton.
And we have a lot to talk about today, starting with the national championship, the college football national championship, that is, kicked off from Atlanta, Georgia on Monday night. The Ohio State Buckeyes claimed national title number 9 when they took down the Notre Dame Fighting Irish 34-23, covered that 8-point spread, just like I knew they would. Go Buckeyes. Really a dominant performance on both sides of the ball yet again from the Buckeyes. Kind of slowed down in the second half, but came out exactly how they came out against Tennessee and against Oregon. Came out firing. Had us all thinking it wasn't going to be a game, but what an opening drive from Notre Dame that they just couldn't seem to replicate, you could say. Mm-hmm. Tell me what you thought about the game.
I'll start with Notre Dame. Obviously, great first drive, but you knew just not going to be sustainable going forward. They had multiple fourth down conversions, and they were running Riley Leonard into the ground pretty much from cover to cover.
8 carries on his opening drive.
Yeah. He played a pretty good game. He had some
one of the better ones
plays.
He played this year. Yeah,
he had some good plays though. I questioned their offensive game plan a lot. I mean, why not give the ball to Love as many times as you can? Why keep the ball out of your best player's hands?
They really did. Jeremiah Love had 6 touches for 8 yards, and they just abandoned him in a pretty disappointing fashion. Would have liked to see them ride it out with him. Probably would have had better success on the ground, but they kind of opened it up in the second half. They found some explosive plays. They took some shots. Kind of makes you think they should have taken them earlier. Mm-hmm. But Ohio State's defense just capped off a great season with a great performance.
Yeah, that team is just a buzzsaw, man. They're so good in all phases. They don't really have a weakness, Ohio State. They played so well this entire playoff run, so impressive. And for Ryan Day, who is perennially, he's got the bonehead coaching gene, right? He just pulls off the gas whenever he shouldn't, conservative in games he shouldn't be. And for 4 games straight, he coaches like his job was on the line, which it was. So he deserves a lot of credit. I'm not sure if he or Chip Kelly were calling the plays throughout the playoff run, but
whoever
both of them. I mean, he deserves a ton of credit for his coaching, no matter what. And also just the whole team. They're just going to be so good going forward. And I don't really have too much else to say. I think they're going to. Their whole defense is going to be NFL players.
Mm-hmm. They got depth though.
They do
have a good amount of depth. Will Howard's going to be going to the NFL. It's officially Julian Sane time in Columbus.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of NFL analysts are calling him a first-round pick now.
I'm hearing that. I'm hearing similar chatter. I'm hearing that this playoff performance could have done wonders for his draft stock. A lot of people saying that with his frame, that he's got an above-average arm. He's sneaky athletic. Kind of reminds me of a Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold type prospect.
And you know how good those guys came out to be.
Sam Darnold's a dog, okay? Listen,
is
he's not going top 5 like those guys, all right? He's going to go late, 20s and down.
One day, you, Will Howard, will lose a playoff game for the Vikings.
Good. They need him. He could come in and start over McCarthy right now. Silas just looked at me in disgust.
It's It's not possible.
So who do you think's a better prospect, Will Howard or Quinn Ewers? We're going to talk about Will Howard or Quinn Ewers as his where he could land in terms of the draft.
I like Ewers better as a prospect.
You're nuts.
He's got a better arm, man.
Whatever. He's not sneaky athletic. He's a statue.
He's got some mobility.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe.
He never has to run at Texas, man. They both have inconsistency problems.
They could have ran it a little bit against the Buckeyes. Might not have lost.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. You put Will Howard on Texas, I bet they lose too.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. I like yours more. I think the arm translates more to the NFL, and both of them share inconsistencies, I think, on a pretty even level.
It's definitely a boring discussion between two boring prospects, but
Yeah.
I'm biased, so I do like Will Howard. I think Will Howard's got a sneaky arm. I don't know if he can make every throw on the field, but he's why are you looking at me like that? Will Howard presents a pretty okay prospect for a team down the board.
Yeah, great. I would love my okay prospects.
Whatever, man. Whatever. And in this year's class, Will Howard could be a relatively safe bet.
No, I mean, I think he'll probably end up having a few quality starts in the NFL at some point.
I think him and yours have comparable arms. I think Will Howard is a step above as an athlete. They have relatively similar size, but I don't know, man. You can call Will Howard a leader too. You can't call Quinn Ewers a leader.
Can you not?
I just did.
Okay. All right.
Will Howard's a gunslinger. Moving it on, keeping it in the world of college. We're gonna get into some pretty in-depth news. The Mountain West added infamous Notre Dame rival Northern Illinois to their roster going into the new year. They're trying to rebound after losing pretty much everybody. Boise State, Utah State, bunch of other schools leaving to go join the Pac-12. The Pac-12's coming back. What do you think of the Huskies moving into the Mountain West, man? Moving out of the MAC.
This is just electric news, man.
Dude, they've won like
the college football landscape is going to go crazy next year. I mean,
they're 4-time MAC champions, a storied MAC program leaving the MAC. God, conference realignment. Why are you doing this to us?
I mean, I just you got to feel for the MAC, man. And all I got to say is it's time for Kent.
And I do feel for the MAC. They're coming. Go Flashes.
Kent's up next, man.
Moving on, I have a little pretty it's definitely a news story that I'm gonna share with you. Bubba Thompson, 27, I believe, 28-year-old MLB player. Don't think he ever cracked the majors. Returning to college football. He's gonna play quarterback.
Where?
I don't know. Let's look it up. But he was drafted back in 2017, I want to say. He played for the Texas Rangers and their affiliate. He also suited up for the Yankees, the Reds, and I think that's it. This year he batted 111 in 18 at bats and had 2 hits on the season. But in 2022, he had 170 at-bats. I presume this is like his only year in the majors. He had 45 hits and 9 RBIs. So,
where is he going to play quarterback?
I forgot to look that up. Hold on. I just wanted to see here. I just wanted to see. I don't think he. I don't think he's announced that yet. But he was a 3-star recruit. He had interests from Troy, Memphis, Ole Miss, UCF, Western Kentucky, and there's one more, but it's not loading, so who cares? Ranked as the number 26 pro-style quarterback in the 2017 class. I was right there.
Oh, really?
And the number 37 prospect in Alabama. So, yeah, this is a thing. Last year that happened too. A receiver left the MLB. He was also 28 and came back to play college football, suited up for Arkansas. Do you think this is going to be a trend with failed baseball players?
I mean, maybe. I guess it depends on how much success these guys have in college football. I mean, honestly, I didn't hear anything about that MLB player going to play at Arkansas, so I would assume he was not very good.
He saw like a few games of action. But,
yeah, and so, I mean, the same thing if I assume this former 3-star quarterback 10 years ago had some looks from some pretty good schools. I'm assuming he's going to be riding the bench.
Maybe not. We'll keep our lookout for the name Bubba Thompson in the over.
My eyes will be peeled for sure, and perhaps bleeding if he ever gets in the game.
Oh man. Last college football little tidbit of news we're going to talk about. It got revealed that NCAA 26, the next installment of the NCAA college football video game series, coming this summer. We've been talking about what the cover could look like if it's going to be another crowd cover, famously featuring Donovan Edwards, who stinks, and Quinn Ewers, who stinks, and Travis Hunter, who's looking pretty good. So give me your three. Give me your top three. Who should grace the cover?
I'm betting it'll be Arch. Arch will be on there. I bet Jeremiah Smith will be on there, and I don't even know.
Who do you want on the cover?
I don't know, man. Belichick and his girlfriend. Pretty epic. I don't know. I don't know.
I put my three picks on the notes. Silas did not. I put down.
Yeah, well,
Jeremiah Smith. Okay, what was your argument?
Well, you had the list you had the whole list, right, of topics, and then the three.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what the list meant. I didn't know if you were wanting me to pick topics or pick players, so I just left it blank.
Right here it says NCAA 26 cover athlete picks.
Yeah, but I didn't read it really that close. So that's my argument.
I picked Jeremiah Smith as well, but for my two other picks, I picked two guys who are putting on for the White Boys, putting on for the Cracker Republic. Coy Parrish, Minnesota Golden Gophers star, do it all kind of guy in the secondary. He was an All-American as a freshman. Known baller. If you don't know his name, know his name. And another stout white boy, John Mateer, former Washington State Cougar, led all FBS players in total touchdowns. So he's going to Oklahoma. So that's a pretty big market. I reckon he'll bring in a bag. He'll probably be on the cover. You'd think.
Well, I'd like to change my number 3 answer. I want Carson Beck on the cover.
The U. Moving over to the NFL. Come on, man. We had a pretty stout weekend of football. Our game of the week, the Buffalo Bills defeated the Baltimore Ravens 27-25. Yet another year of the Ravens just kind of losing their identity in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. 3 turnovers, a couple crucial mistakes from Baltimore. We thought Baltimore was going to win this game, so
we did.
Tell me what you think of the wide right upset.
I wasn't upset really. I mean, I'm upset that my pick went wrong. I gotta stop picking Buffalo in big playoff games. I gotta stop picking Baltimore in big playoff games. They never get it done, and I hate to say it's all Lamar's fault, but he did not play a good game. He sort of salvaged it a little bit.
He did salvage it.
The fourth quarter was pretty nails, and Andrews was doing his best to sell the game completely. But Lamar, man, he just... And I'm not saying he can't going forward put it together.
In fact, it's safe to say he's probably going to.
Yeah, he's too good to just keep falling apart like this. But he does keep falling apart, and it's not that his teams are failing him, it's that he's failing the teams over and over again. I mean, both of his turnovers were completely boneheaded and completely contradictory of the season that he played. It doesn't make sense that a guy like Lamar would go and do those types of things.
I feel not necessarily feel bad for Lamar because he's obviously the guy who has the ball in his hands every play. He's the guy making all the money, earning all the spotlight. But I mean, like, new year, different coordinator, same mistakes. I mean, Todd Monken, he abandoned the run. I mean, they started running it in the third quarter too.
Yeah, they did. They were really successful.
They came out running it, got away from it a little bit in the second quarter, and then came back to. Well, they were playing down by a sizable margin going into halftime, but still, I mean, you can't. You have Derrick Henry back there.
Yeah,
you have 1,900 rushing yards. You just can't. And you've seen how this has turned out for you in the past. So in a game when you lose by one possession, that could have, absolved you of a few turnovers if you just ran the ball on those plays. It cost them.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills, I want to give the Bills defense some credit because they came out in these heavy base formations to start the game, and they scared them away from running the ball in the first quarter because it was not very effective. And I think Harbaugh and Monken deserves some blame for going away from it so easily, for being swayed so easily. But the Bills' defense also, I mean, they're a nickel team perennially. Their base defense has only appeared in 5 games before this. Like, most of this season, they just don't even care for it. They don't use the personnel. They get out there, they shock the Ravens into passing the ball, and I can see the idea of, well, our quarterback is Lamar Jackson. We can just put the ball in his hands, and that's okay, and we can come back to the running game later. And Lamar goes out and makes some costly mistakes. Bills, I think, I mean, they played perhaps a little bit too conservatively on offense at some points, but I mean, no mistakes.
No mistakes. None. One penalty for the entire game. No turnovers.
And I think my go to the week last week, Alec Anderson.
Oh, yeah.
He was on the field.
He was listening.
Mauling.
He tuned in. Yep.
And
definite mauler.
They were running power to his side, and James Cook, as Romo would say, was cooking.
Oh.
And I mean, they were gashing them, and just all throughout the game, the Ravens did not have a consistent answer for it.
I agree with what you said. I mean, Mark Andrews pretty single-handedly cost them the game too. I mean, you had the 2-point conversion. It's a mental mistake, and we get that. But we talked a little bit about kind of looking in a new direction in the tight end room, because Mark Andrews, he started to show his decline this season. And Isaiah Likely just played a monster game. I'm pretty sure he led the team in receiving yards. So what do you think of Baltimore looking in a new direction and kind of just looking towards a player like Isaiah Likely, who could be
I mean, I think
could offer more upside.
Yeah, you give a guy like Likely all of Andrews' targets this year combined with his own. And and I think he becomes one of the most explosive tight ends in the league. I mean, he already is, but just the numbers don't back it up because he's been splitting targets his whole career. And then for Andrews, I mean, I would not blame them at all if they wanted to get rid of him. I still think he's a pretty good player. He's probably still a top 7 tight end in the league, and I think if they cut him, he's going to have a job somewhere else. And I don't think, it's not like they were throwing the ball to like Nelson Aguilar or something and he dropped it. Like, it's like, oh, of course.
Yeah, it was.
Andrews, I don't know what got into his head this game, but when he was like trying to cut back in the open field, holding the ball out in one hand, and he has always been smarter than that. And he had another drop earlier in the game that was not, that brought them from. That would have brought them from 1st and 10 to 2nd and short, and Lamar ended up fumbling on that drive. And you can't blame Lamar's fumble on Andrews, but it was a bad drop there. Just a bunch of mental lapses, and I think that's just indicative of not just the players, but I think that can reflect back on Harbaugh too, of why they come out and they bite themselves with penalties, and they bite themselves with these horrible mistakes consistently in these games. And I think that does come down to Harbaugh a little bit. It's the same thing I was talking about with LaFleur last week. You got to get your guys ready, man. Play calling and talent is one thing, but when you go out there and you have holdings and false starts and fumbles,
you coach what you can do.
Yeah, that's reflects back on your coaching. You got to teach your guys to catch the ball, get upfield, get down in a game you're down in, and
on the biggest stage.
Yeah, and it just didn't happen, and it keeps not happening. I do think the Ravens will be back next year, but I don't. It's hard for me to pick them as the favorite in the AFC when this just keeps on happening.
Moving, we'll put a bow on this game. The Buffalo Bills will move on to take on the Kansas City Chiefs once again in the AFC Championship. That's sure to be another one. We'll get into that matchup a little bit later. But moving on to a team who also lost their identity in the game's most crucial moments. The Washington Commanders defeated the Detroit Lions 45-31 in. You could call it a generational upset. We picked Detroit by 2 possessions. We knew Washington was going to make some noise. Detroit's defense was banged up coming into the game. 13 players on injured reserve, just on that side of the ball alone. And Washington just came out and they looked as explosive as they have all year. They showed the ability to get play hard-nosed football and get down and run the ball. And Jaden Daniels made pretty much every impressive throw he needed to make. He did everything from checking it down to launching that crucial deep ball to Diami Brown, put him in scoring position. They got a touchdown on that drive. In Detroit, they just kind of – Jahmyr Gibbs had 14 carries for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. They just got away from him.
They did, and it's hard to keep putting the ball on the ground when you're down 2 scores.
Definitely.
It gets harder the later the game goes, and they were down pretty much the entire time in this one, which is uncommon for Detroit. But it's the same thing with the Ravens, and maybe even a little bit more so with the Lions, is your most explosive play, the way you get back into the game the quickest, is handing the ball to Gibbs. And they just couldn't, they refused to do it consistently, and it sort of felt like Detroit they were coaching that game as if they thought, even late, that they had no chance to lose. I mean, like, your offense is running good.
They ran really well.
I mean,
31 points.
Your offense is
with a handful of turnovers.
Yeah, your regular offense is doing good, and then you flip it to Jamison Williams, and you put him on a throw when you're down 10 points. And why? Why are you doing that? And
that's just the wrong play.
That comes down to Johnson and Campbell, and those are flaws. And these are the questions people were having back when they were like 8-8 and a really fun team that just isn't going to get it done that year. Is like, all these fake punts and these trick plays, these are awesome. How sustainable is that when you get on the biggest stages? Like, is their identity going to change? Is that aggressiveness going to diminish? And the answer is that it hasn't. And I think that in general that's a good thing. But they've had a couple of plays and games like this. I mean, like going for fake punts and not getting it. It's just stupid. And especially in this one, they just kept making mistakes. Goff had a pretty bad game.
Bad game.
The Commanders are not the Texans, and you can't throw 3 picks and fumble and win against a team like the Commanders when your defense is just terrible. And I would like to say, I also think Aaron Glenn deserves some blame for that too. Just the refusal to shift the identity after you've gotten torched the entire first half. I know it's difficult. They're a man coverage team. They have been. But I mean, you gotta know when to throw in the towel sometimes.
I think one of the I can't understate how poorly they game planned for the deficit. They had several drives that you can recount where they'd hand it off to David Montgomery on first down and then pick up 4, 5, 6 yards. Did that with Gibbs too, and then they'd throw the ball 3 straight times, and Jared Goff would either throw a pick or they'd be forced to pick up a big third down, which they did do for a good chunk of the game. But it got to that point where when you're forcing those throws, you're going to force it into coverage, which is what Jared Goff did. He threw 3 picks, and I don't think it's necessarily as much to do with Jared Goff. He didn't play he didn't play a good game by any stretch of the imagination, but it's no reason to go back to the well and think you need to make a switch or anything like that. I think it's just simply sticking with your execution, sticking with your game plan. And Detroit, they were a team that ran the ball. They're a run. They need to be a run first team. And when the game got into its most crucial moments and their backs were against the wall, they just did not sustain that at all.
No, they didn't. And I don't think that their window is closed by any means.
Oh,
I saw
absolutely
a lot of people
not.
saying that on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah. No, you can't.
I mean, you're going to get your
that.
whole defense back next year. I mean, so many players on IR, and I mean, it's such a big reason that they lost this game is that they just did not have the personnel. And next man up is only cool when you're playing like the Jaguars week 10 or something. It's not cool when you've got, I mean, at this point, probably a top 10 quarterback going against you in Daniels and an offense that is just really clicking. And I mean, just
at the right time.
And I would like to talk about Washington now, the team that won the game.
Yeah.
starting on the defense, man, their pass rush plan was the thing that impressed me the most. They were getting a lot of pressure on Goff, and I mean, not a ton in the large scale, but way more than Goff has been used to this season. And
he was definitely uncomfortable.
He definitely was.
Yeah,
and
they made him uncomfortable.
And I think, getting rocked by Frankie Louvu doesn't help.
No, sure doesn't.
I mean, he may have been seeing ghosts in the second half for all we know. But
seeing ghosts of 4 out there.
Yeah, he is.
Quattro
Panthers
Louvu.
legend.
Yeah.
And Panthers legend Jeremy Chin had a good game too.
Crucial pick. Game-sealing pick, actually.
Game-sealing pick. That's what you'd expect from a Panthers player.
Oh, yeah, it is.
But
keep pondering.
Dan Quinn coached a really, really good game, and Kingsbury did too. Sanders still, I think, is going to be a star in the league.
Mm-hmm.
He's really good. I mean, I also think that his first pick was just a pretty bad underthrow by Goff. I mean, Williams beat him. I mean, great recovery, great way to be there, but I think that was more of a Goff blunder. But, I mean, he's just been good. And their whole defense has been good, and I'm impressed with Quinn's ability to change his identity. Because last year with the Cowboys, he was all-man coverage all the time, and when they got into the playoffs against the Packers, they got burned. And that's what I was worried about, is that they would just stick to the identity and disregard their personnel, and that has not been the case all season, and I'm really, really impressed with that.
Well, you saw a great deal from the Commanders. I mean, they have a first-year quarterback who looks like a eighth-year quarterback. He's incredibly poised, and he just can do everything on the biggest stage, and he's just so impressive. I mean, he can do it all. He can run, he can pass, he can make pretty much every throw you need him to make, and he did that. Led the Commanders to yet another playoff win, and here they are in the NFC Championship.
Yeah, and I think it's just so impressive. I mean, the 300 yards, the 50 rushing yards is great, but never a negative play from Daniels, it feels like. I mean, he took no sack. I think he actually had 1 sack for 0 yards. The same thing that happened with in the Bucs game.
But
they just couldn't. They can't get him down. He doesn't have plays that kill drives.
He's got a really good presence in the pocket, especially for like a guy with his kind of athleticism.
He does,
who you'd think would just be jumpy. But
yeah,
he's patient.
I like that. I like that you brought that up. I mean, the throw to Brown under pressure, he stood in there and flicked his wrist and put it on the money. I mean, he
over 2 defenders, just right in the bread basket.
I mean, he's really, really good. I think they've got a pretty dang bright future, and I think by far the Commanders are one of the most surprising teams, not just this season, but in recent memory.
Absolutely, yeah.
To go from being, the second worst team in the league last year to being in the championship game, and it's just crazy.
Big turnaround. We're going to talk about who they're going to match up with in the NFC Championship. The Philadelphia Eagles took down the Los Angeles Rams 28-22, and this was, you wouldn't think of, but it was one of the best games of the weekend.
Oh yeah,
it was a phenomenal game. Jalen Hurts didn't elevate his performance yet again, but he has Saquon Barkley behind him, so it was another win. Saquon just dominated the ground game. Their offensive line dominated up front. They made plenty of holes. Then Saquon had no trouble. Another 200-yard game. Kenneth Gainwell got some burn too.
Of course he did.
Yep. Made a couple big plays. And I just think the Rams just kind of ran out of time. I think the concerns we talked about just kind of shined through against a really good team that like Philadelphia. And this wasn't a game that I thought they were going to get blown out, but they definitely hung in a lot better than I thought they were going to, especially against that defense. And Stafford is always going to have his team in it, but they showed a lot of fight, and it just came down to 1 or 2 plays at the end of the game where they were starting to come back. You felt like there was a chance they could win that game.
Yeah, they just oh my goodness, what was I even going to say? Okay. The Eagles' O-line, I will say, did not dominate in pass pro at all.
No, they did. They didn't keep them clean. They didn't keep Hurts clean.
Back to Hurts as well, because he holds the ball longer than anybody else in the league, and he's not really that great of a creator. He's just kind of holding the ball due to indecision, and he needs to.
He used to be though.
They used to run all of these really quick strike RPOs, and that was their offense that 2022 season. That's what got him so much production. And I think Hurts he has played better than he's playing now, and I think he can.
He can. He's definitely, he can elevate his game.
But going forward, I don't know if I'd count on him doing it. You know, like, if he were to come out against the Commanders and absolutely light it up, I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I wouldn't be shocked at all. It would be nice. It'd be nice to see a sign of Jalen Hurts.
But I don't know if I'm going into that game expecting it. I think it's more likely he's got 130 yards and a touchdown and a few sacks and some good yardage on the ground. I mean, there are real positives to Jalen Hurts. His accuracy down the sideline is really good, and his presence in the run game is really good. And I wonder if people are a little less critical of this game if A.J. Brown catches that touchdown on the sideline, if A.J. Brown catches that first down on the second drive. I mean, he could have easily had a 17 for 20, 200 yards and a touchdown, and then 70 yards on the ground and a touchdown and no turnovers. And everyone can look at that and say, like, yeah, maybe it didn't look pretty, but it was pretty good. And I think he played better than the stats show, but he didn't play great. I think this was a better game overall than the Packers game from him, and he was also playing hurt.
I was gonna say, I was just about to bring that up. I have to wonder how banged up he is. Like, I have to wonder what his percentage is.
I think quite a lot.
Because it's uncharacteristic for him. He's been a creator. He's been an elevator.
He hasn't been a creator all year, though.
I'm not necessarily saying this season.
And last year too. I mean, he's just, when he gets out of the pocket and he's on the run. I mean, you look at other guys who are, you think of Jalen Hurts in the same conversations with, you think of him even like in the vein of Kyler. When Kyler gets going to the sideline, everything is on the table for Kyler Murray. You have Hurts rolling out. It feels like the only thing he can do is run or throw it away. He's not really an off-platform thrower. He is a pocket passer, and he doesn't play like one. But then going back to their defense, I mean, the Rams weren't in it until the last 2 minutes, really. I mean, the Eagles should have put them away with 4 minutes to go, and they just failed to do that.
The Rams battled back to their credit.
They absolutely did. And Stafford is just so unbelievable, and it's a shame to think that we maybe only have another year, if that. I mean, he could retire.
He could, yeah. I don't think he will.
I don't think so either, but it's a shame, because he's one of the best quarterbacks to do it.
You'd really like to see him get one more.
And Puka is, Puka's up there with anybody as a receiver. I really do think so, and I think he gets the slot merchant label a little bit, but he's just not. He's not. Like the
Cooper Kupp had that same thing when he won the Triple Crown, and I'm like, where do you put him? Because Cooper Kupp's lining up outside now, and you gotta get the guy efficient.
But it's like Puka has the ability to go out there on the outside and win too, and he did that in this game. He is up there, I think, with anybody in terms of rack.
I could agree with that.
And he's got really strong hands, and he's quick in route running. I mean, he can win in every phase of the game. I think he is right up there with anybody.
Well, talking about his slot merchant label, it's the case for a lot of teams where you have two dominant receivers and you predominantly line one of them up in the slot. I mean, Jamar lined up a lot in the slot, maybe more this year than he has. You look at Devontae, he lines up in the slot.
CeeDee Lamb's a slot guy a lot of
lines
times.
Up in the slot a fair amount. I just don't think that's necessarily something he can help. I mean, he goes where he's assigned. Obviously, that's what you do. But I think he's incredibly versatile, more so than he gets credit for. It stinks for the Rams. I like the Rams. I would like to see the Rams win this game.
Just you get below 2 straight offensive line assignments on the last 2 plays of the game. That's just brutal. So brutal. And Jalen Carter just wrecking the game on the last few drives. I thought the Rams had a real chance with this one. I thought they were dangerous against any team, and they proved me right, but they just couldn't quite get it done against a more talented Eagles roster.
Just couldn't quite squeak it out. Talking about our last playoff matchup, the Kansas City Chiefs took down the Houston Texans. Pretty.
That was a stinker.
It
was a terrible game to watch.
It was like the outlier, man. Like every other game was so sweet, and then this one was just, it was handed, but it was it was low scoring. It just wasn't that entertaining of a game from a fan perspective.
No, and it just, everybody knew it wouldn't be, right?
Yeah,
These two offenses have not been very explosive all year. Houston hung in it a little bit, but they were sort of like fake hanging in it almost.
You can only do so much without like two really talented receivers. I mean, all you got to do is game plan for Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz.
And Nico still had a good game.
Yeah.
Stroud, I think, played pretty good, all things considered. It's just like their O-line is like, I mean, it looks like full of preseason players. I mean, they need 10 new guys on their O-line. Like, they are so bad. And not just like, oh, they're just getting beat. It's like their communication is terrible. Like, the guards are going outside when there's rushers up the A-gap and Stroud is getting hit before he even catches the ball. And it's just consistent. And it's like you're on the 35-yard line and you take a 10-yard sack and you're out of field goal range. And then, you know, when you are in field goal range, your kicker turns into a fucking inept asshole, and he can't make a kick. Like,
he really stunk it up.
I mean, that first kick,
Kyle Fairbairn's career might be over.
It's really bad, man. And that first kick that he missed, like, the announcers were like, "Man, this wind is bad in Arrowhead." It's like, dude, that thing
ball stayed straight.
And the one that got blocked, it was like, if it didn't get blocked, I think it might have gone like diagonal to the sideline. Like, it was like
one of our
man,
joke kicks in Madden.
There were 4 guys that got a hand on that. I was like, yeah, because I mean, they could have blocked it with their fucking knees. He kicked it so badly, and he's a good kicker. I don't understand what has happened.
It just happens. It happened with oh hell. Can't even think of his name. Happened with Brandon McManus.
Yeah,
Brandon McManus was a stud.
He just, I mean, he blew it, and then, of course, everybody's outraged about the penalties going in the Chiefs' favor, and I agree.
Yeah,
both of those calls so stupid,
so bad. You had terrible. One where Houston's players literally tackled each other instead of tackling Mahomes, and then you had another where he flung himself out of bounds.
Well, that one didn't. That wasn't a penalty, which was good. They didn't call that a penalty.
I thought they did call.
No,
that
so
that's my mistake.
I mean, I think that one, like, I mean, I hate to say it, like, I understand. Like, if Mahomes knows that he could get the call and get the yards,
absolutely,
every single quarterback should be doing it.
Absolutely.
If this is how the rules are going to be called, but Mahomes does it to such an exaggerated degree, it's so annoying. And I do think, like, flopping out of bounds, the lamest thing you can do. It's so stupid. And, like, it makes you just, like groan, and you're like, oh my God, I hate these guys. And
why are you doing this?
And then Mahomes is like, he's falling down, he throws a laser, and it's just like, oh my God, I hate these fucking players. Yeah. And like Kelsey like catches the ball and curls up, and he's shifty, but it doesn't look like it on the screen. And it's like, he's so good. You're like, he's just making the defenders look like so stupid. Yeah. And it's like, I'm like sitting in the living room, like pounding my fists, like, I could make the tackle, please. You just
want Kansas City to lose at this point.
And then, you know, like, Azeez Al-Shaair had like a horrible game.
Well, yeah.
And he's like, the big like 60-yard Kelsey catch is like, it was Al-Shaair's zone. He should have been right there, but he just left Travis Kelce wide open. And then on the touchdown too, he was just like in no man's land.
It's where you don't want to be.
No, it's not where you want to be. I think there were good things about the Texans, and if we want to segue this into the Bills-Chiefs matchup,
we that is next. Segue it, baby.
I will say what worries me about the Chiefs in terms of a concern I have about them winning. They got gashed on early downs by Houston. And Houston's early down success rate throughout the season has not been that good.
Certainly not to a degree of Buffalo.
I mean, their O-line is horrible in Houston, and they were still able to get push in the running game, and Mixon had a really nice game. And you go into Buffalo, a team who likes to line up under center and run at you with extra O-linemen. I mean, you could get into a point where, I mean, if Buffalo's constantly in 2nd and 5 or 4, it's going to be hard to get them off the field when they do have a good O-line and they do have those explosives. And when Spags loves to blitz, and he killed the Texans with the blitzes, and it makes me wonder against Buffalo, is like, is that going to work as well? Like, Chris Jones is not going to be able to just bull over the. I mean, he's going to have his
Certainly
plays,
not Alec
course.
Anderson.
No,
our
of course
boy.
not. No, he's going to. I mean, Alec Anderson's going to blindside him and take him out of the game because he's a competitor.
Ally of wide right.
But I think I do like the Bills in this game.
I was about to segue that into a conversation.
And I hate that I do because I know what that means.
Is that they're gonna? Yeah.
But I just think they're the better team, man. I think their O-line is better. Their defense is. I mean, it's about on the same level.
This is the 6th meeting in their career.
This is the 4th in the playoffs.
But like they've had like two. They had the 2 regular season games those were also pretty good games.
Well, Allen is. I think Allen's 4-1 in the regular season against Mahomes.
Okay.
And Mahomes is 3-0 in the playoffs.
Yeah, so this would be number 10, I think. I think they're both 5-5 in the head-to-head.
Well, no, I mean, Allen always wins the regular season. And Mahomes always wins the postseason.
My reason for saying is that this in the entire series, this is the one this is probably the most confident I've been in Buffalo. Just with how slow Kansas City's looked offensively, I could see Buffalo having a huge impact on their ability to run the ball. I mean, Kareem Hunt's he's had a pretty good year, but he's certainly not what he once was. And I mean, Kansas City still has a pretty fantastic O-line, but it just feels like a Buffalo win this time.
I really agree, man, and I hope that it comes to fruition.
I really hope it comes to fruition.
Allen has had a better year than Mahomes. I think McDermott can scheme Kelsey out better than the Texans did. I mean, I don't know if he will. Kelsey always seems to go nuclear in the playoffs, and
at the right times.
I just really do think this one's going to be super close and pretty infuriating to watch if you want to watch the Chiefs lose. But I do think Buffalo is going to pull it out, and I think it's going to look pretty similar to their win in the regular season where they just kind of boat race the Chiefs. Yeah. And when the Bills want to turn it on, they can, and I think that's where the Chiefs are lacking is like the Chiefs didn't have any games where they put up 50.
No.
The Bills had 2, you know. Yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, they like to line up and run the ball and, you know, do these efficient ball control things, but you also have Josh Allen, and they are not afraid to unleash him either. Whereas, you know, you unleash Patrick Mahomes and he's rolling out, and all of a sudden it's Juju Smith-Schuster on a comeback route, and he's getting mugged all the way out of bounds, and it's just like, okay, well, there's only so much you can do about that. Yeah. I do think it'll be close. I do like Buffalo.
Okay, so that's gonna get us into our picks. That we can count that into a pick for Buffalo.
Yes.
Picking Buffalo.
Yes.
I too am gonna pick the Bills. Give me who do you like in the Eagles Commanders matchup? We'll talk about that one.
Man, I like the Eagles. I think that they are gonna have a very similar day in the run game that they did against the Rams. And they are way less afraid to just say, fuck it, hand it off to Saquon than the Lions are to say, we're going to hand the ball to Gibbs, you know. Yeah. They will give Barkley 30 carries, and they're not going to be afraid to do it.
It's been a pretty interesting evolution of Kellen Moore's offense. I mean, in Dallas, it was all Dak Prescott all the time, and now it's... I mean, they were certainly more balanced when they had Pollard, but... It seems to me that, I mean, more than ever, Kellen Moore's just been pounding it, just 4 yards in a cloud of dust, and I think I like that about Kellen Moore. I like Kellen Moore to get a job this offseason. With that said, Commanders by 10.
Really?
Commanders by 10.
So my concern for the Commanders, more so than even the Eagles' offense.
I can justify it for you if you want. So, I'm just bored of the Eagles. That's the only.
Okay. I think their defense,
simple fan will is leading me.
Well, I don't think the Commanders are putting up 45 on the Eagles.
No, certainly not. Certainly not. I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying Commanders by 10.
So what do you think the score's going to be? Like 13-3?
31-21.
Okay. I mean, I can see it. I mean, the Eagles can certainly cope with a bad Hurts game. They have in these last 2 playoff games. But I mean, he could sink you if he's got another one like he's had.
I'm on the bandwagon, man. I want the Commanders to win.
Oh, I'm not saying I do want the Commanders to win.
If you ask me if I think they're going to, like, that's really what this could be boiled down to. I'm not sure is what my answer would be.
It's a tough one to predict. Man.
It is, because it really could go either way. I want to be different, so I'm picking the Commanders.
Okay. I think, I mean, really, just the Eagles' defense is not going to allow them to march up and down the field like that. They're not going to be able to just hand the ball off on these RPOs and Brian Robinson isn't going to be able to gash them like this.
Yeah.
But Daniels is better than Hurts right now. He's had a better year. He's had a way better playoff run.
Oh, yeah.
And if, I mean, it's tough, man. They play such good zone coverage, the Eagles do.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been pretty successful I guess they didn't shut down Terry last time they played. But last time they played, they also had Kenny Pickett out there.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of tough. I do think the Eagles are going to pull it out, but I do want Washington to win. I would be so happy if Washington won.
So looking to win all our loyal viewers some money, we decided to piece together a couple betting picks for championship weekend. We went with different platforms to really let the experience flow.
Mm-hmm.
So for versatility reasons,
Yes,
we don't know what
we
don't know what our listeners what kind of apps they got. So for my application of choice, I went with FanDuel Sportsbook, and Silas went with
Fliff.
Fliff.
Oh wait, no. Fliff wouldn't let me. I went with Prize Picks.
Prize Picks. All right, Prize Picks and FanDuel this week. Tell us about your first pick.
So I've got Travis Kelce anytime touchdown.
I like that
for
one.
my first one.
That's a good one. For my first one, I went with Terry over 70 receiving yards. A lot of these kind of root back to my belief in Washington. I think if Washington wins, he's going to have a good game.
I agree. I definitely agree.
And I think he will have a good game. So, yeah, over 70 yards.
And then my second, I have Jaden Daniels over 221.5 passing yards.
I like that. It's a good one. They're probably gonna stick with the passing game.
I think so. I mean, and 221, I don't really think is crazy of a.
Yeah. For my second one, I went with Jaden Daniels anytime touchdown. So that's rushing, obviously, but I mean, even down towards the goal line, they don't shy away from him. So
no, they didn't.
I like that pick. Tell me what your third and final pick is.
My third and final, I've got Brian Robinson over 37.5 rushing yards.
That's a good parlay.
I mean, I don't know. I don't feel. That's the one I feel the worst about out of the three, but I still think that it's going to hit.
I don't mind that one.
And then that's if you put $1 in, if you want to lose $1 this week, $1 to win $6.50. It's
that's a good line. That's beer money. That's what the beast money.
Mm-hmm.
My third and final pick, I went James Cook over 70 rushing yards. I like FanDuel because I got to do the alternative lines, so I didn't have to do the set line. But all my $1 payout is $14.38, so I'm going to be raking it in this weekend.
Yes.
Segueing us into the NFL offseason, which is happening right now for 28 NFL teams. We had some coach hirings, which are pretty inconvenient because we made some coaching fits. So the Bears got their guy, went out and got Ben Johnson, pairing him up with Caleb Williams and really just a waiting in the wings Bears roster. I mean, they're talented on both sides of the ball. They have a favorable draft pick. It was a really good situation if you don't look at the fact that the Bears are the most cursed organization in the NFL.
Not the most.
Aside one of their top three.
Oh, yeah.
Their top three. I mean, I like the hiring. I liked Ben Johnson. He was probably my top candidate. I could have seen him go into a number of jobs. So share your thoughts with us on that.
I mean, I think I had, on our first episode that we recorded, I had Ben Johnson as my pick for the Bears. I think He had expressed...
Called it.
Yes. Duh. He had expressed interest in the Bears before, and I think they were ready to just hand him the keys to the organization.
Did try and get Mike Tomlin, though. They did call about Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, but the Steelers can't let a guy go like that.
No. No.
But no, I think Ben Johnson's a pretty good fit for Caleb and the crew. I think they need some O-line help pretty desperately. Their center might have been the worst starter in football, and he started from week 1 to week 18. He was terrible the entire time. I think having Ben Johnson, having a guy that's not afraid to make things easier on Caleb, will really, really benefit him. And I think they're going to lose Keenan Allen. They could re-sign him, but I still really like Odunze, and I really like DJ Moore. And I just think they'll benefit from a more balanced attack on offense and just more. I feel like everybody could see that the Eberflus era was a pretty toxic one in Chicago. I feel like everybody felt like he was on the way out.
I absolutely like the hiring. Don't get me wrong. I had Kingsbury going to the Bears. Kingsbury worked with Caleb Williams. He got linked to the Bears job last year. But obviously nothing ever happened there. I'm just a Kingsbury guy.
I know that would have been a Bears hire if they'd have done that. That would
Whatever, man. That would have been a good hire. He has previous coaching experience. He has experience with Caleb Williams. He coached him last year at USC. Whatever, man. We had the second poaching off the Lions coaching staff. Aaron Glenn picked up by the New York Jets. He's another defensive minded guy.
Yeah,
that's their identity. That was my pick. I picked them to get Aaron Glenn. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler there. He played there the last time they were not the last time they were good, but he played there in a good time of Jets football. I really like that hire. What do you make of it? Especially with the A-Rod situation. A-Rod's on his way out. I don't think it'll have any effect, but
I don't mind it. I feel like it's a pretty inoffensive hire. I think he's going to do a good job there as a head coach. I think he's very qualified as a leader, and I think he can take over a locker room that desperately needs an overhaul. Mm-hmm. And I think overall this year he ran some really, really well-schemed man coverage with the Lions. It fell apart at the end. And I think he deserves some criticism for how it fell apart at the end. But
you can only blame him so much with the kind of losses they had.
I think the 15-2 regular season weighs the positives more than the one bad loss in the postseason. I think he's going to do a good job. I think it's just a little bit interesting that they fire a really good defensive mind for a probably worse defensive mind. Saleh was... he didn't have command of the locker room, obviously. And, I just think the same way we had talked about the Patriots job last week with Mayo and just messy the way that everything has happened for the Jets this year. I think
definitely didn't need to fire Saleh.
I really don't like I don't dislike the hire at all. I just think they could have done it in a way less offensive way to everybody. Like, they alienated the entire locker room mid-season, and that was just silly. But I think Aaron Glenn to the Jets was going to be pretty good.
Who did you like to the Jets otherwise?
I had Flores to the Jets.
Flores, similar candidate. I like Flores. Probably a more polished defensive mind. He's more refined.
It's very, very different. Aaron Glenn is, we're going to show you exactly what we're going to do, and we're just going to do it so well that you can't go against it anyway. Mm-hmm. And Flores is all a mask. Everything is disguises and all these crazy shifts on the defense, and then you snap the ball and it's just cover 2, but all these crazy variations of it. So Flores is like the smokescreen of defense, but I had him to the Jets. But again, like you said, same idea.
Yeah, same defensive-minded guy. They knew what they wanted. They interviewed a lot of defensive-minded guys. Mm-hmm. So we have 4 jobs left, I think, that are open. The Raiders, Cowboys, Jags, and Saints are all still looking for head coaches. So tell me who you like for each of those teams, starting out with the Cowboys.
The Cowboys, I have here Joe Brady for the Cowboys.
Okay.
I think he is going to bring, or not is, but I think he would bring to the Cowboys a different approach than what they've had before. And when Dak comes back next year, he's going to be at his least mobile he's been his whole career. I think they need to draft a running back because their O-line really isn't even that bad. I think they need to get under center and they need to run the ball. They need a huge identity shift. And I think Brady can really bring that. I think his run game is super creative. And I think his pass game is really good too. I think it can all benefit. The Cowboys in general could just benefit from becoming modernized. And I had Flores at first for the Cowboys, but then I realized Jerry Jones would never hire a person of color. So I changed my...
Jerry Jones, known racist.
I changed...
Known bad person.
Yeah, he's horrible. So I changed my pick to Joe Brady.
That's a good thing to factor in, the level of racism by the owner/GM.
Yeah, and in general, they're all pretty racist. But, and then, so you go... We'll go back and forth. Go ahead. Who do you have for the Cowboys?
For my Cowboys pick, I went with Kellen Moore. I'm a fan of Kellen Moore. I've been campaigning for him to get a job for a while now. He's familiar with the players. He's got a good rapport with Dak. He helped Dak through arguably his best season of his career. I think that's a very safe hire for them. He's a guy who will answer to Jerry Jones. There's not going to be any clash there, even though I think Jerry Jones should just step down. He should let someone else run the team. You just kind of have to factor that. I mean, when you're making your pick, I like Kellen Moore. He's got a good scheme. We kind of touched on his evolution as a play caller. He's got good continuity with the guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would make sense for him to go back.
I think, I don't know if Brady has interviewed, but the Cowboys interviewed Moore.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I also don't know. I mean, I guess you can interview if Kellen Moore interviewed. I guess Brady
They
could
also interviewed Rob Saleh.
Yeah,
they have a short list of candidates. They went into it with 4 and now have 3.
Yeah,
Great.
I went into this a little bit more thinking who I would like the teams to get rather than who I think would really get it.
Yeah.
So I'll move on. For my Raiders pick, I had Aaron Glenn, but I will switch that to Brian Flores.
Okay.
So all the same things that I liked about him for the Jets, I also liked about him for the Raiders.
I also have a Jets coach for my Raiders pick. I went with Bob Saleh. Pretty similar. I mean, what we've already talked about. He kind of rebuilt that kind of hard-nosed culture for the Jets. I think the Raiders are in dire need of that. I think they need to stop getting felons. I don't think Saleh would have a problem with that. He just seems like a Raiders guy. Like, you think Raider, you think toughness, man. And I think I see Saleh as that. But similar to you, I think they're similar candidates, both defensive-minded guys.
Yeah.
Moving on down south to the Chop House. Tell us who you want to lead the beloved Jacksonville Jaguars.
Who I wanted to leave my beloved Jaguars spat in this great organization's face.
In their fucking face.
I mean, you just can't.
I can't even remember the last time I've seen that. Tell us who your pick is.
I had Liam Cohen. Yes, the Buccaneers offensive coordinator. I really wanted him. I thought that he would give Lawrence everything that he needed, play calling wise, but he told the Jags to go fuck themselves, and probably good for him in the long run. I mean, I'm upset, but I from a human standpoint, I'd hate to see him go through that. I would say to plug in another guy, I think Kellen Moore makes a lot of sense for the Jaguars as well.
Okay.
I like what he's been able to do with the running game in Philly, although the Jags O-line is nowhere near as good as that.
It's still creative. It's still a good zone scheme, and he's got a good mix of power in there as well.
Yeah, but passing wise is where the concern gets to me a little bit. It's all, I mean, when he was with the Chargers, their passing game was not very good. With a better quarterback than both Lawrence or Dak. And his passing game this year, I mean, it's a lot of Hurts making mistakes and not making quick decisions. But I mean, a lot of times there was a play in like on a third down, and every single play they ran 5 wide, and every player ran a hitch, and everything was
Orange one, baby.
Yeah, everything was completely locked up. And I think there's concerns there, but I think overall he makes some sense for the Jaguars.
I like that. For my Jags pick, I went with Ben Johnson. I thought Jacksonville was going to be a pretty enticing offer, but before I get into my pick, we just I want to take a dive into the Jags masterclass fuck up that they had. So the Jags rebuffed their interest in their general manager. They were all about keeping him up until they weren't. Turned off some coaches, Liam Cohen being one of them, because of their interest in keeping their general manager, just to fire him. So they let go of him and are now looking to bring on Tampa Bay's general manager, who surely would have brought Liam Cohen with them, but Liam Cohen's already out of the race, so who knows? Maybe he'll call him back, be like, guys, just kidding.
No, I don't think he's kidding at all. I wouldn't be kidding. I think if I saw a number call me from Jacksonville, Florida, I think I'd hang up the phone and change my number if I were a coach. I don't know. I think he's made the right decision.
Yeah.
Do we want to move on to the Saints?
For my new pick.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. For my new pick, Cliff Kingsbury. Quarterback friendly move. Mm-hmm. I feel like they have a similar offense. Like they're definitely more quarterback focused than they are running back focused. The Commanders, that is. Mm-hmm. Kingsbury's just a very inoffensive quarterback hire. I think he'd mesh really well with Trevor Lawrence.
I agree.
And I think he would provide some upside to their running attack as well.
I think so. I mean, Lawrence. I mean, geez Louise, man.
The Jags as a whole just put on a stink fest.
Yeah, I mean, they're so bad, and I really do think Lawrence needs an easy button to press, man. Because every single throw he attempts is really like a really high difficulty throw, and he has it in him to make them, and he does a lot. But when you make those kinds of throws, every single throw, you open yourself up to making these horrible mistakes, which he also does a lot. And I think they'd really benefit. Criticism I have for Kingsbury in Washington is it's a lot of screens, and I think that, like, opening that up could be really beneficial to them, especially in this Eagles game. Like, I think the Eagles are going to be really good against the screens. I think if you let Daniels loose, I think Daniels can get it done for you. And that same criticism I think could be very beneficial for the Jaguars. It was just like some quick, easy, inoffensive throws for Lawrence, get 5 yards. You don't open it up for Christian Kirk to flatten his route on the corner and it get picked off because Lawrence threw it to the spot he was supposed to be, and it's just they're in
I think
desperate
they just
need
need
of
an
a revamp.
offensive guy.
Oh my god,
they've gone defense.
Peterson was supposed to be the offensive guy,
but he's definitely quarterback friendly. He's got a defensive history. He's probably defensive minded at this point, you could say. I just feel like Clint Kingsbury is like strictly offensive guy, and I think that more than anything is what they need to establish some kind of identity.
I do think
going forward.
I do think if I were in an NFL office, I would want to see one more year from this out of Cliff.
That's fair.
Because it did not end well at all in Arizona, and his offense was very stale and predictable, and it became stale and predictable everywhere he's been in college, too. This is the only time he has put it together for an entire season, and it'd been really good for the entire season. So if I were... I'm impressed, and I wouldn't be mad at a hire, but if I were in a front office, I'd want to give it just one more year.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that. They haven't interviewed him yet. They're trying to interview Kingsbury. Could be a good pick. Moving it slightly out west, down to good old Louisiana, the New Orleans Saints. Tell us who you like for that job.
I have Spags.
Finally gets the job.
Yeah, I think
gets a job.
Yeah. I wouldn't call the Saints the job.
Yeah, definitely not.
If I were Spags and I had the chance to stay with the Chiefs for less money or the Saints for a bag, I know what I'd choose. But the Saints seem to crave the defensive consistency, and that's what Spags brings, that he can keep an aging roster afloat really well, and the Saints want nothing more than to stay afloat. That's
all they need. They just want to stay afloat.
I don't know. If the only thing that concerns me with me picking them is like I just don't know if Spags would be good. Like I don't know if he's up for like a rebuild. I don't know if we want to go in and blow it up.
Yeah, maybe not. It's a good hire though. I don't know. I like the pick. I went for a little bit of a shot in the dark. I went with Iowa State Cyclones head coach Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell is a guy who attended the same high school as my father, Perry High School, Massillon, Ohio guy. So he's a bring your lunch pail to work. He's been impressive. He's slowly built a stout program at Iowa State, back-to-back 11-win seasons, first time in program history, and I just like what he brings to the table. They have a tradition now. He's shown the ability to build a culture, and that more than anything is what makes him a good fit for particularly the Saints for me.
I agree. I think he'd be a good fit, but I feel the same way about him that I feel about a lot of these college guys. Is if you spend so much time,
kind of like Kingsbury.
Yeah, well, not even him. Is more how I feel about like Marcus Freeman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of you spend so much time building this really good program and really good culture. Why would you leave and not reap the benefits of what you've built? I think for him, I think for the Saints it would be great, but I think for him, I think he would rather stay at Iowa State.
Probably. So moving it over to the hardwood, kind of wrapping the show up a little bit, approaching the end. We had a pretty stacked Monday night slate of basketball games. It was nice to see. Starting out in Cleveland, the Cavs took down the Suns, 118-92. The Cavs are just rocking and rolling.
They're so good, man.
The Suns are in dire need to make a move. What do you think about particularly the Suns going forward?
I mean, I think that obviously they've got the high end talent.
No.
But I mean,
no
depth
debate
has been a problem for them for a couple years now, and it's only gotten worse.
Steadily, yes.
And I think they've gone really over the edge of like, well, this guy's not really worth paying a big contract, so they let him go. It's like, okay, but the guy who you replaced him with is horrible.
And they just didn't bring anyone.
Yeah, and they did the same, like Ethen in particular. It was like he's not worth the contract he's on, but also he's a fine player.
Yeah.
And they kind of just ditched all the like solid players.
And now they don't have any kind of presence down low.
And I mean,
they gave up their entire future for Bradley Beal, who now they're looking to trade. And
yeah, they're. I mean, a dumpster fire would be a strong word because they're not really that. It just
they can contend. I just worry for them against a team like Minnesota, even who has strong talent up in the front court. I don't view them as any kind of contender at this stage. The Charlotte Hornets defeated the Dallas Mavericks 110-105. The Hornets they're surging a little bit.
They're electric, man.
They are electric. They're a fun
electric.
team. Talk about your beloved Hornets.
I love them so much. They're my favorite. I just hold on one moment. Let me pull up the good old box score here.
You're all good. I'll take over. LaMelo is the leading vote getter, and there's a lot of eyes on the Hornets. LaMelo is the leading vote getter of any Eastern Conference guard. He's taken a lot of shots, not making many of them, but he doesn't need to be efficient when they have 11 wins at the halfway point of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little talk for the Hornets that I had planned that
you hit me.
We can bump into right now. Where do they go? I feel like they need another star.
Yeah, well, that's to put it. I mean, what about Seth Curry? He's a star, man.
They have some pretty solid top end talent, no doubt. Brandon Miller's a stud. Mm-hmm. He's definitely a guy who can be a number 2 guy. But after LaMelo and Brandon Miller, their drop off is so severe.
It's not good. I mean, you've got
They need a lot of things, but
I mean, you've got Miles Bridges playing the second most minutes on your team, and he's not a bad player, but
he's been a good player historically.
Sure.
He's not a guy who can be a third option on a championship team. He's more of a high end role player.
Yeah, and then you got Josh Green playing 27 minutes,
Relax,
going
man.
1 for 6. He's got 4 points.
You're fact spitting on me. The Mavs are without Luka, but this is still a pretty good win. They're still a playoff team. For a young team like Charlotte, this is just a win that gets you feeling good. What's next for them? I would probably say just go all in on a free agent or go all in on Cooper Flag.
Yeah, the problem is they just won't.
They have some assets. They've actually, I saw a trade linking Steph Curry and Draymond to them, where they give up the whole boatload for Steph Curry and Draymond.
They're not going to do that.
What would you think about that, though?
I wouldn't be very happy about that, honestly.
They can trade their entire future for.
I mean, in fairness,
a year of disappointment.
Like their future is fucking dust, and
until they hire us, and
they have nothing. We're coming. We're gonna when we go see that Cavs Hornets game in March.
It's a slow takeover.
Shaking hands with MJ. So if everybody in North Carolina sends us $5, we will buy the Charlotte Hornets.
Would you rather have the Hornets or the Panthers?
I'd rather have the Panthers.
Okay,
but the Hornets I feel like would be easier to part with for MJ to part with. I feel like he's pretty fucking tired of it.
Yeah. Well, he sold his majority stake.
Yeah.
He's just like, still, he could give that to us. That'd be just enough for our dictatorship. Keeping it in the Eastern Conference, the Detroit Pistons had a feel-good win over the Houston Rockets. Houston's one of the better teams in the Western Conference, second in the conference standings right now. And Detroit's a team that's had a pretty quick turnaround from being the worst team in basketball last year. They have some young pieces. They could probably bring in another veteran or two. But Cade Cunningham's legit. He's a sweet player. I don't really have too much to add over that game. Houston's just good, and Detroit happened to be better.
Yeah, no, I mean, these kinds of games happen in the NBA all the time. Just like the marginally worse team beats the better team. I mean,
it's nice for Detroit, though.
Yeah, it's good.
It's good. They're finding their groove.
You got, I mean, I'm just seeing here, big play Tobias Harris, 34 minutes, 2 for 9, 4 points.
So maybe just get rid of the veteran you got and bring in an entirely new one.
In fact, you don't actually even need to bring anybody else in. just take him off the team.
Just let Tobias Harris lose.
But no, I think they're a good team, and their turnaround has been pretty impressive.
They have J.B. Bickerstaff, former Cleveland Cavaliers head coach.
Yeah,
look at him, man, building some tradition, rooting for the guys. The New York Knicks barely took down the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young's been a villain in New York for some time now. But they couldn't get it done against the Knicks. I think Cat had like 30 in that game. I think New York's turnaround with Karl Anthony Towns has been pretty impressive. I think he's gone pretty under the radar for how major his impact has been. Their record might not blow you away to this point of the season, but there's no denying they're a contender.
No, they're very good, and I think Cat is one of those guys that he gets all of the like. He's just like horrible in the media. Like he gets
a horrible rap.
And he does it to himself. Like it's not like he's like getting boned by the media or anything. Like he's a genuine like asshole whenever he talks to these people. And he says like the stuff that makes you like hate him the most.
That's because he talks like this. Because really he talks like this.
Yeah, but he's like he's like when this is over, man, I'm gonna be one of the best players in the game. And you're looking back, you're like, no,
come on, man, win a ring first, Cat.
Like no, dude, you had 13 points.
I was wrong.
Yeah, he had 37 minutes, 13 points.
Is that when Jalen Brunson went for 40? Is that the game?
Jalen Brunson went for 34.
It might have been Jalen Brunson's been on a hot streak. I think he had 40.
But him and Bridges combined for 60.
See, they just have so many weapons. Yeah, man. They have room for off nights.
And you've got endurance king Josh Hart.
Known track star Josh Hart,
who is a media darling. But I mean, their starting five is pretty dang nails.
It's
I think Cat is
one
a
of the
good
best.
addition who, like, he gets the hate from the media, but he's actually a pretty solid player when he's on the court.
He's doing pretty good this year. He's gone. I would probably have to put him in my among my first team All NBA big men. He's had that kind of impact in New York. Keeping it in the Eastern Conference for our final matchup of the Monday slate, the Boston Celtics absolutely obliterated the Warriors, who were without Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and who else? Who cares?
They had Curry in this one.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, but they also had Wiggins, so that cancels out.
Do you think it's time to blow it up in Golden State? These rumors about trading stuff are actually getting a lot of traction.
No, I'm not going to make that joke. I was going to say you could burn it down in Golden State, but
that's for us to do.
No, it just they just don't got it, man. They don't have what they need, and
they've lost the sauce, so to speak.
They do. They had 2 players in their whole team score more than 10 points.
I mean,
it's just not good.
It would be so funny if they traded Steph, because I don't know if you saw this. I think it was last week. Steph was talking about how they shouldn't make any trades. They should just stick with what they got, because he doesn't. I think Steph's checked out. I mean, it's hard to be an old NBA player and like have, especially the face of our franchise that's just struggling the way they are. I mean, they're just scratching and clawing, and they're barely 500.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Moses Moody as your second highest scorer, and he's coming off the bench. He is I mean, he's perhaps the greatest 11th man of all time.
He's pretty good.
But he play. I mean, you've.
I just hand him the keys. We're shipping Steph and Kate and Draymond out. Just take over young blood.
Yeah, and then again, I just
think they would get a good haul.
Yeah, I think they would. And what did Boston win last year?
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say because
I mean they're the reigning champ. It's not like that, but you're like supposed to be a playoff contender, and you just got blown out by 40 points.
Yeah, no, it's not good.
Yeah,
not good
that caught some pretty negative attention for Golden State. But keeping it in the NBA atmosphere, the trade deadline's coming up. Some news to report on the trade deadline. The Miami Heat suspended Jimmy Butler for another 2 games today.
I didn't see that.
I didn't see what it was for. Maybe if you can find it for us. But I just feel like
probably. I mean, I would guess it's the exact same thing it was last time.
Believe it or not, he wore Suns colored shoes. Like he wore shoes with the Suns colorway on them in their last game, and that everyone was talking about that. I don't know if it would be for that. Probably some kind of conduct detrimental to the team or something like that.
Well, yeah, he apparently he just didn't get on the flight, on the Wednesday flight.
So
yeah, I mean,
I just think they need to just move on. I mean, it's over for Jimmy in Miami. I don't.
Yeah, they're just
they don't owe him anything to move him. I just think it's
it's
getting stale.
It's obvious.
Yeah,
it's over.
They're separated, awaiting divorce. But keeping the tone on the trade talks, the Cleveland Cavaliers are not resting on their laurels. They are they're making some calls. They like a few guys. Cam Johnson of the Brooklyn Nets being one of them. He's a guy who's having a career year in Brooklyn, which isn't to say much. They're not very good, but he's pretty much exactly what I would want in Cleveland. The Cavs desperately need a wing. Max Strus, since he's come back, has been just okay. They paid him a lot of money. I would just be okay if they went and got Cam Johnson, who's got a comparable contract, but he's a guy who's going to play better on defense. And he's consistent this year. He's knocking down the 3.
I think just in general, it's good when contenders keep on going. You know, I mean, this is the Cavs' year. This was the Cavs that everyone was excited about when they got Donovan Mitchell. And if they just, but they're not an unflawed team.
No, they're
just so talented they overcome them. And if you go into the playoffs, a flawed team, you can lose any 7-game series. I think it's good to get. It's good to get more good players.
One of their biggest flaws is that they've kind of settled with this small ball lineup, running Dean Wade at the 5. Never a good idea. never a good idea. Dean Wade is 6'7". Small ball teams more often than not get beat in the playoffs. And I would really like the Cam Johnson pickup, don't get me wrong, but they desperately need front court depth. Behind Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, they have nobody.
Who are both injury prone, especially Jared Allen.
Exactly. And they need another guy in there. Fuck it, get Draymond. Bring Anderson Varejao back.
Oh, God.
For our final topic, the Oklahoma City Thunder are an exciting team. We know that. They're one of the best teams in the NBA, arguably the best. I'd rather have Cleveland as an Ohio native myself, but they are in a unique situation where they're arguably the best team in the NBA and have more assets than any team in the NBA. They have just been ran perfectly. It makes you wonder if they could use some help on the wing themselves. They have the assets. Why not go get Cooper Flagg? They'd have to give up a haul to do it.
They would.
It just solidifies it for them. That's a superstar waiting in the wings, and they don't have any timeline. Every one of their players is young. They're still in win now mode somehow. They have the coach. They have their identity. It just seems like this is just right in front of them, and I think I had a dream about it. I don't know why I put this on. It's just interesting.
I don't think I'd like that move.
Basis of discussion.
I think in general, especially in the NBA, when depth is overlooked, is like you really want a couple of really good players, and then you just want quantity. You want a bunch of guys that can give you quality minutes, and if you give away, they have so much in the way of assets, and I think to shoot your wad all on one player is just like, I think that'd be a little bit irresponsible.
For a team that's been ran as like precisely.
Yeah,
as
and I think like if you would do better in the off season to just get a bunch of really, really solid players and just fill out your roster and make your role players set your floor so insanely high, and then have your really good high end talent like put your ceiling like over the moon, which is they're on their way to doing just that now.
They certainly are. Wrapping it up. Are you ready?
Are you ready?
We have this week's picks for our Go to the Week, second ever Go to the Week. I don't know if it picked it up again. It probably didn't, but we'll hope. I went first last week, so it's you're up for this week. Big dog.
I've got
tell me your Go to the Week. Let me know when you're ready for the drum roll.
I've got no drum roll necessary, man. I've got big play Austin Eckler as my goat of the week.
Wow, nice.
Love
Austin Eckler.
I've always been against Austin Eckler. Actually, I kind of think he was always overrated in LA. He's never been a bell cow. He can't do it. He's never been like a really great runner, and that was a big problem for the Chargers whenever they managed to make the playoffs. But damn, has he been efficient this year? And I don't know if he still is, but at a certain point this year he was leading the league in yards per touch. He had 6 carries, 47 yards, averaging 7.8, and he also averaged 10.3 per reception on 4 for 41. I mean, he's almost got 90 yards on 10 touches. Just making plays, and it's guys like this, it's the that help Kingsbury really like run this offense so smoothly. They got a bunch of dudes who get not very many looks, but they are very efficient with the looks that they do get. And you go from him as like 6 for 47, and Brian Robinson's got 15 for 77. That's not a bad stat line either by any means. But I just when you give him the ball, if you're not looking for him to be your bell cow, it always seems to go well, and it has this season. So for those reasons, Austin Eckler is my go to the week.
Wow. In a shocking turn of events, I am keeping it in the Washington Commanders backfield for my go to the week pick.
Jeremy McNichols?
You bastard. My go to the week is Washington Commanders running back Jeremy
He
McNichols.
had 8 yards.
He had a touchdown.
He
Okay?
had 8 yards.
He found the end zone. Jeremy McNichols played a crucial role in the Commanders' 45-31 defeat over the Detroit Lions in a divisional round weekend. 4 carries, 8 yards. Dude, 25% of his carries went for a touchdown. Look at that stat.
and 75 went for nowhere.
Whatever.
And nothing.
Whatever. Jeremy McNichols helped ignite a Commanders run. They went on to advance to the NFC Championship game, and happy for Jeremy McNichols, man. I mean,
Me too. I'm stoked.
the
Stoked
Reaper,
for God.
man. He put the game away. Last touchdown of the
That's
game.
what they call him.
The closer, Jeremy McNichols. Guys, thank you all for listening. This has been Ethen and Silas Jackson. Check out our social media platforms. Check out the Wide Right podcast on all your social medias. Listen on all your favorite platforms. Listen to the episode once on each possible podcast platform. We're trying to make a lot of money. Thank you all for listening. And as always, take it easy. Peace out.